Where should we start today?
Gosh, we had a pretty busy weekend.
We did. Gigs.
I guess that is the underline. What would you call that? That's the big bullet point. Is gigs.
That's the through line of last week.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Well, let's start with Friday.
Yeah.
I had a gig with Jonathan Greschler's band, Half Zen. And Jonathan is someone I've been working with since 2016, 17. Like, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
We've basically done 2 albums of material together, and now I've helped him put together a live band. I'm sure I've talked about it on the pod before, but we had a show. I think technically it was the second show with this full lineup. There's been a few shows that it's been getting going, but with this current lineup, and it was at the end, at located inside of Doghouse Music. It's a small, cozy little family venue.
That was really full circle for me. I went to
watch
the show.
Of course, yeah.
Because shortly after I started teaching at Doghouse Music, and I went there because I got kicked out of my previous location in Boulder.
Yes, yeah, Table Mesa.
Let me back up here. So the first place that I taught in a room that I actually paid for, that wasn't my basement, was on Table Mesa in Boulder, and it was an interior room that in a shopping office retail place. Mostly offices. Yeah. It was an interior room, so you walked inside the building and then down a hall or something, and then you opened a sliding glass patio door, and that was the door to that room.
Yeah.
So one whole wall of that room was glass.
Yeah.
It was so weird.
Yeah,
but it was super cheap. So I started teaching there.
Wasn't it in the United States?
It was next to the Ultimate Frisbee Association.
Ultimate Frisbee Association.
So they got to hear all of our singing.
Yeah.
And they complained and
they
complained.
Didn't love it.
They didn't love it, and we got kicked out. And we got the warnings from our landlord by mail to the mailbox on property, which I never checked. I didn't even know I had a mailbox.
I did not know that part of the story.
Yeah. So I finally got a phone call from them, and they're like, "You need to be out by Monday." And I was like, "Excuse me? What?" And they're like, "Yeah, we've gotten complaints, and we've been sending you letters." I was like, "Where have you been sending those letters to?"
Yeah.
So then I finally went and checked this mailbox, and there were like 6 or 7 letters telling us that we needed to pipe down.
Oh my gosh.
So with no time to spare, I think I had about a week. I had to find a new place to teach. Fortunately, at that point, it was just Kristen and me, and I think one other teacher, maybe just the 2 of us. So we only needed 1 room.
Right.
And so I called Gary at Doghouse, and thank goodness he had a space opening up. Yeah. And I took it right away, and it's the room 2 doors down or 3 doors down from the end in Doghouse Rehearsal Studios. So we worked in there for several years. Grew it out of that place.
That's the room Jonathan and I started working together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gary at Doghouse is the one who referred Jonathan to me.
Wow. So it was a real full circle.
It was a real full circle.
Yeah.
Especially since we also saw Mark Schwartz,
Mark Schwartz was there.
Performance high guy.
Lives in Nashville now.
Yeah.
Franklin.
He came out to the show.
Yeah.
And there were some other people that, longtime students that came out to the show. So
yeah, I think the show was good. You know what I mean? Like, I think we nailed the length. We were talking in the last pod about what to, whether to do 2 smaller sets or try to do. We were aiming for an hour and 5, and I bet we got pretty close.
I think it was pretty close. I don't know exactly, but I remember sitting there thinking, I think 1 more song would be about right.
Right.
And then after the end of that song, he said, "We just have 1 more song for you." And I was like, "Man, nailed it."
Yeah. And then it didn't get, from the reports of you and other people, it didn't get boring, even though, an hour 5 is kind of a long set. So I think there was enough of a flow and interest there.
No, well done.
Band was great. Jonathan did all of the set list stuff on his own. My only contribution was...
Oh, nice.
Yeah, my only contribution was, shorten it up a couple times. Uh-huh. I was like, we got to drop a few songs, and then still we got to drop a few more songs.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I can't believe he listened to you.
Yeah, doesn't always happen. Yeah, we started out around, I think the set was like 90 minutes. It was like 21 songs or something.
Okay.
And I was like, that is a lot to...
It's a lot of original music.
That's a lot of original music. Yeah, we do a couple covers, but it's mainly original. So anyway, that was fun, and
I loved watching you.
oh, and I was so complimented by that.
You're such a... I mean, you're such a sideman. You're such a perfect sideman. You know, you're a rock star, but you're the sideman rock star.
That's
you know?
what I always wanted to be.
You have this way of moving that's like unique to you. It's like based on, like we were talking about, your T-shaped body, your shoulders that just go straight out that way.
Yeah.
And and just the way you stumble around stage. I don't get a chance to watch you perform very often.
I know, because almost always we're performing together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which it was so nice of you to come.
Oh yeah, of course. Happy
And
to.
I sing a ton in that band, which is
Yeah.
always a little weird. That definitely throws my performing off a little bit, because I'm not used to having that extra thing to do. I got caught short a couple times, like, oh, I'm supposed to be at the microphone right now. But you can't hurry. That's tip number one.
Right.
Get there when you get there.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, you can't be like,
Yeah.
oh, crap.
Yeah.
You know.
That looks bad.
Yeah, it doesn't look great. But we had fun. It's a great group of guys. Just an amazing
They are
group
so
of people.
all really-
Really nice
Yeah,
people.
enjoyable people.
Jonathan's really surrounded himself with great people. We do want to thank Kenny and Liz at Doghouse for having the event there and running the event. And the sound guy's name, was it John?
I don't know.
He was a great guy. Thank you to the sound guy at Doghouse. And I believe he's the studio guy too, but I'm not sure. Anyway, moving right along. Saturday morning, we had our first installment of our stage performance class.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Saturday midday.
Because you went.
And you were
that.
taking out the water ski course with your...
Yep.
Which has to be done every fall.
Yep. Yeah, so you taught that the first session, both in Denver and in Broomfield.
Right.
Yourself.
Right.
How'd it go?
Great. Smaller class size, but that's often great because, you know, we've talked about, you know, the classes occasionally have gotten up to 8 or 10 people, and when you do that, you have to stick a lot more to a curriculum, whereas when it's smaller classes, you can go, I'm going to hit some points, but let's get custom. Let's just work on what, if it's 2 or 3 people, let's work on what you guys want to work on.
Yeah, so it's almost more like private lessons.
It really is a lot closer to a private lesson. But we ran the basics of stage performing and how to move around on stage and how to use zones and, you know, and I've increasingly added to the idea, to me, that a lot of those things are sort of like training wheels, that you're like, oh, well, this is just a little formula, but it's something to get you started moving, planning what you're going to do. And then eventually, I see you do a lot of the exact sort of stagecraft things we would teach, but I'm fairly sure you're no longer like thinking about those things. You've just practiced and internalized enough to... You're naturally making moves in the right spots and all that stuff. So anyway, great class, and that was fun. And then that night, did you have a gig that night?
I did.
You sure did. You were with Chris Blooms.
Yeah. So Chris is in the same building as us at Sound Structure, on the Studio One side, and he's been there for 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah. He's been there. He's long
that
time.
room must that neighborhood unrecognizable 14 years ago.
Oh
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
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 Anyway.
So he runs this thing called Sip and Strum, which is you learn to play guitar by going to a bar and drinking with other people who are also learning to play guitar.
Right.
So a brilliant idea.
Group guitar lessons.
Oh my, yeah, group guitar lessons with beer.
In a public place.
In bars.
Yeah, right. So it's got the social aspect and...
Yeah, I think it's just brilliant. It sounds like it's pretty casual.
I think he's been very successful with it.
Yeah. And I want to try to mine that idea, not steal it, because that's not, our thing isn't guitar lessons.
No, we're not in that.
I've been trying to think how we can adopt that, more casual, more social, involving alcohol, perhaps. I don't know.
But group things
thing.
to where the social aspect is a large part of it, not just the learning.
Right.
You know, because when we do a class, speaking of group things, when we do a class, it's not really a social hangout, get to know each other, hang out with people time.
Right.
It's learning time.
Yeah.
But you're talking about something that's more of a, you know, you get to sing, but you're also making friends and spending time with people.
Right. And our pop choir might be the thing to lean into to make that happen.
They are already sounding great, by the way. Not to get off topic, but
cool.
I've walked by the door a couple times, and it already is just sounding...
Nice. I can't wait.
They're doing Stairway to Heaven, and it's a really cool arrangement.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So...
Okay, so anyway.
Ryan Elwood.
I got totally off track there. Yes, Ryan Elwood, our drummer, invited me to play bass at Chris's Sipapalooza. So it's basically his student recital for his sip and strum students. So, and that was super fun. It was like 6 songs.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So he would bring up a bunch of people who knew song A.
Right.
And they wouldn't plug in or anything. They're just all standing on stage. You know, he had an amplified, he had like a pro guitarist on electric, who was playing and you could hear him. And then there's the rhythm section, of course. And then Chris was playing and he was plugged in. But everybody else was just getting up with acoustic or electric or whatever, just standing on stage and playing.
Oh, that's so cool.
Not through the PA. Just, you know, just how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
You know?
And it's just giving you that experience of being on stage and getting to...
And playing in front of people.
Feel with a band, too. Yeah.
Oh, and Sammy was on vocals. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Sammy Davis was on vocals.
Sammy Davis on vocals.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, and of course they know each other because Chris Bloom produces Sammy's solo music.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
And she was dressed as a clown, a gorgeous clown.
Well, yeah,
she's good at makeup and she's tall and athletic.
She's not going to, that's so much fun. No, I didn't know Sammy was there.
So he would bring up a bunch of guitar students on stage for one song, like all the people who know that song got on stage. Yeah. And then we'd play it. And then they would all get off stage and then he would either do a contest or a raffle. And I'm so inspired by this. I'm going to try to bring this kind of vibe into our showcases a little bit more. So he had 3 contests. One of them was get the pick out of the acoustic guitar.
Harder than you would think.
So he handed 3 volunteers from the audience. He got 3 people to come up. He's like holding a guitar, and the people are like, "I don't play guitar." He's like, "You don't have to play guitar." So get 3 people up, dropped picks in the holes,
the sound holes,
and then said, "All right, whoever can get it out first wins some kind of prize." And then
dropping a pick in a guitar is terrible.
He said it happens at least 3 times every time they get together and play.
I'm sure that it does. Yeah.
And then the second contest was a costume contest because it's almost Halloween, and the third contest was an air guitar contest.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah, air guitar contest.
So we played some songs on stage. I mean, somebody called songs, and I tried to just follow along.
Yeah.
And we had an air guitar contest. So super fun.
What a fun place. And it was at the river?
It's just called River.
Called River.
Yeah.
And that's in Rhino, pretty near our studio.
Yeah, it's on 38th across from Blue Moon.
Yeah.
It is every square inch of that place is covered with some kind of sign or painting. It is an assault on the senses. Especially the bathrooms.
Just
oh my gosh.
Stickers and graffiti. And,
stickers and graffiti and signs, road signs and stuff. And if there's a road sign, it's also covered with stickers and graffiti. There's nothing that's like all by itself. Especially the bathrooms. My gosh, you go in. You know, you've seen those houses made of license plates, or the way that like a lot of Colorado use license plates.
Yeah.
And that has a very like active and like full feeling. Well, the bathrooms were like covered in signs and license plates, and then on top of that there was graffiti everywhere, over applied so that it was all dripping down.
Oh, right.
It just felt like I've never been so like affected by color and like overwhelmed by it. It was a little claustrophobic.
I wonder. I must have been in like a punk rock bar at some point.
It was very punky.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty recently renovated. I think just a few years ago.
Okay.
Anyway, it used to be something.
All right,
anyway,
well, new venue, that's fun.
Yeah, new venue, fun place, a great hang.
And then speaking of Elwood, you had a gig with him Sunday morning.
Yeah, So Sunday morning was my first church service. I went down to Journey Church for rehearsal at 6:20 a.m.
Which is in
Castle Pines.
Castle Pines, which is not, you can't even really call it a suburb of Denver. It's definitely like far enough down. It's its own.
It's beyond the edge of Denver.
Yeah.
And pretty easy songs.
Yeah.
In general, just 4 songs, 3 services times 4 songs. So I got to play them 5 times because we rehearsed and then we had. No,
right.
Whatever.
Ryan's mentioned that before. Yeah.
My takeaway from this gig is I continue to have technical problems that I am dealing with successfully.
Yeah.
So I had 4 or maybe 3. I'm not sure. Number 1. So this is a no amp gig. It's all direct.
Yeah.
So I didn't bring an amp. I just brought the pedal board and then I brought your Sans amp. Mm-hmm. And I plugged it in and the sound lady said that she was getting nothing but a big fat buzz, like just pure noise. And I was like,
right.
Oh, well, I know it's this pedal because I used the rest of them last night. So I unplugged the XLR and with it came the wires.
The jack.
The jack itself.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, that's a problem. All those wires are broken.
Yeah.
Could have switched to a 1/4 inch, but we would have needed to change they had an XLR run already. So
right.
Basically I just switched to a DI. But she still wasn't getting any sound when we switched to the DI. And I was like, okay, I know this pedal board and all these cables work. I used them last night. Except for the last cable that I just added to put into the Sans amp.
Right.
Which was now in the DI. So I swapped that cable out, put a new one in, got some sound.
And that was the problem.
So, okay. Problem number 2, bad cable. Then we played the rehearsal and the first service, and then we came back for the last song of the first service. Because we do 3 songs, go away, and then come back.
Right, sure.
Last song, my bass was a lot quieter than the first 3 songs. So I was like, must be a battery. So I swapped out the battery between services. And it was a little better, but not noticeably. Now I'm thinking that the problem was actually my in-ears, because since we're not using amps, we have in-ears.
Right, you're using in-ear earbud monitors.
Right, so I'm hearing a click. I have my own monitor mix. I can hear my bass. I can hear everything. But I noticed all of the services that my bass, I was kind of like, it didn't feel like my bass was in my ears. I felt like I could hear it, but I was surrounded by it rather than like getting it in my ears. Mm-hmm. And during the 3rd service, I just like repositioned the earbud into my ear and suddenly got clarity. Like I had been hearing the click, I had been hearing the guide vocal,
right.
I'd been hearing the tracks, but the bass was really just mushy.
Far away.
So what I'm thinking is those West tones I was using have at least 2 drivers. I think I have the 2 driver ones, and I think the bass driver has a loose wire.
And when you nudged it,
when I nudged it, I could clearly hear the bass.
Yeah.
So I don't know if my problem earlier was battery or ear monitor, but anyway, that was number 4.
Wow.
So
that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But aside from that, things went pretty well. I do have a couple of takeaways on the bass from that gig.
Yeah.
So I played the 5-string, what is that? Ibanez Epiphany? Is that how you say it? Epiphone or Epiphany? How do you say that?
Well, Epiphone is a different company than Ibanez, so I'm sure it's...
What does it say on there? In the front? Oh, it's a sound gear. Why did I think that?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway. So, last 2 gigs, I'm talking up a storm this time.
No, this is good. This is good. Sorry, it's an Adrienne. Anyway,
so
you were playing the 5.
Last 3 gigs. I'm playing the 5-string.
Yeah.
And I've only been back on the 5-string for a couple of months.
Right.
And my fingers don't know the distances between the strings as well. And so moving 2 strings, like going from, say, the E string to the D string,
right,
for example, is not always accurate.
So going from the 4th string to the 2nd string, so you're jumping a string.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the distance is smaller than on the 4-string.
Yeah, that's true.
So
5 strings, yeah.
I have made some mistakes at all of the gigs based on not being used to that again. So.
Yeah, it's always been interesting to me how much of a different instrument. I think I was talking to Eric about it. Like, it's interesting that bass is such a completely different instrument than guitar, even though they are tuned the same. Mm-hmm. And then
they kind of look similar.
Yeah, right. And then the 5-string is also sort of a different instrument than a 4-string. It's just enough difference that it really is like some different mindset and technique things, and strings are closer together. You've got an extra string, you've got an extended low range.
Yeah.
And
so
it just makes you think differently.
yeah, for sure. And my right hand was getting a little lost sometimes. It's really easy for me to know which string my fingers are on when there's just four of them. But
Right.
there were several times where my right hand was not on the string, my left hand was
Right.
fretting.
Yeah.
Or I would move a string and I would try to move two strings and I'd move one. My takeaway is I need to just spend some time drilling the 5-string, get used to it again, because that's what I started on.
That's what you start. Yeah, right. Right. But you take time off. I mean, it's similar in a way. It's sort of like slide guitar, where you are using a piece of metal or glass, or I sometimes just literally use a glass.
Or a broken beer
bottle. Yeah. Long neck beer bottle. Which is actually my favorite. But they are. You're still just playing guitar, but because you've added this different technique to it, you're really approaching the whole thing a lot differently. You're not just doing the exact same things you would do with your fingers. You're really, because the slide, of course, is just parallel across all the strings. So there's no, and you just have to plan everything you're playing very differently. So slide is like one of those things, sort of like with the 5-string. If you're not doing it all the time, you're going to get rusty, and with it really takes a lot of upkeep to be like good at playing slide. It's not just, you can't just not play slide for a year and then pick it up and be is kind of the point I was getting there. Anyway, last gig for the weekend was Cody Qualls at Nissi's, which I saw you made a post about it. I agree. I think that is the best that band has ever been. So much good to say about it. I think Cody has cracked the code for himself.
Absolutely. I'm so excited for him.
So Cody, one of the issues with Cody, not at all in a negative way, it's just that he has a huge amount of styles of music he can very convincingly sing. And what he has done for this show and this formula, and what we're going to be doing for the Christmas shows and stuff, is starting the show with just himself and Bryan on keys and doing some more of his classical, and he did a hymn and some of the quieter stuff, which is vocal and piano. And then you came out and did a song on vocals. And then I'm probably
kind of a classical pop thing.
Yeah, kind of. I might not be going in order. And then Mateo from Global Sound and I came out and played with him acoustic for 3 songs, so that it sort of like slowly ramped up for the first hour 10 of the show. And then the second set was full band. And I just have been thinking about it ever since we did the gig. Like, I don't know, but that full band set just felt like it was on fire.
It did.
That band is always good. Has always been good. That show felt on fire. And I was telling Cody, when I ran into him right at the end of the night, the pitch and tone of the applause and cheers was just different.
Oh.
It was not polite,
right,
we love you applause. It was like, I'm having a great time applause.
Right.
Like, it was like,
right.
It was just more like guttural. Like,
Yeah.
it was coming from deeper.
Right.
And he always does great, and he always kills, and people always love it. But this just was hitting people differently. And I wonder if it wasn't sort of setting them up slowly, so that then when the full band came out, it was fresh and new and felt like a crescendo. And I just feel like he's cracked the code. That gig felt different. I felt I was getting amped. We were like 3 songs into the second set, and I was getting the rah. Like,
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, we just had a blast, and we closed strong. And, boy, I was telling Eric, though, the sound guy didn't know great guy, amazingly good sound guy, threw the house music on right when we finished our last song. We had planned to come back and do a couple of songs for an encore.
Just one.
Well,
but
we planned to come back for an encore. But because he threw the house music on, people immediately just went, oh, it's clearly over. Mm-hmm. And there was zero call for an encore, and it was 100% just that social cue of the house music coming up, and you go, oh, it's really over now. Whereas if the house music doesn't come back up, you sort of know that the band might come back. I just thought it was funny how effectively...
I thought it was a fortunate mistake.
I thought so too. It was at a great time, and people had an amazing. No one was unhappy that we didn't do more music. That wasn't
and
the
we
thing.
left them on such a high the way that show ramped up, and that's
a good point.
The encore wasn't going to be up from there; it was going to be down.
Right. That is actually an excellent point. I think that might. Yeah.
I think we should have planned it the way it actually happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I shouldn't be so surprised too about the house music thing, because what am I so often yelling as we end the show and we're walking off stage?
House music!
House music, house music, house music. It is so awkward to me when you end and you've done, like with Petty Nicks, we've done the encore, and then you're walking off stage and it's like minutes before the house music comes on, and you're just like, oh, don't do this to people. Like, let them know it's over.
Yeah.
And I'm always yelling, house music, house music, house music.
We should just talk to the sound guy each time we play anywhere.
I've started getting... I think we almost need like a punch list of like written down, like, this is what we should do.
Not just talking, but an actual written list. Yeah.
And possibly for the lighting guys too, because we have had lighting guys who have kind of gotten a little over the top, and, you know, some of the things like blackouts in the middle of songs, like just like, hey, no blackouts in the middle of songs.
Wait, has that happened?
Yeah, it's happened. It happened recently, maybe at the Oriental.
Yeah. And
it was like, there were a couple of times where he just blacked the stage in the middle of it, and I mean, in that room, it gets like black, and so you instantly can't see a thing.
Yeah. And
if you're moving and all of a sudden the lights completely go out, you're like, okay, well, I hope I don't run into anything, because I can absolutely not see anything. Or I flailed a solo because I had to move up on the fretboard.
I remember you mentioned that. Yeah. I was thinking Petty Nicks.
It hasn't. I don't know necessarily, but I will say, and we talked about this maybe in another pod, I have felt like blackouts at the ends of songs have killed the applause a lot of times. We've done some shows where the sound guy was blacking out after the song and not bringing it back in time.
Right.
So if people don't have a visual to clap for, they're not going to clap the same amount. Right. And so people... I forget where we did it, but they were blacking it out and just leaving it black until we started the next song. And it was really stepping on the applause.
I think we should say no blackouts for Petty Nicks ever.
I think Petty Nicks probably should never have a blackout. It should just be like, you keep that visual connection.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like blackouts are universally bad, but at the same time, I think for Petty Nicks, it should just that doesn't help us.
Yeah.
And we're also visually cueing that's the end of the song. If you can't see us bailing or doing all the things you do to show that the song is over, you know, it just doesn't work as well. Yeah. I had a moment or two in Cody's show where when I went to the other side of the stage because the choir was out, where I definitely was like, I almost backed up. And then I was like, no, they want to clap. I need to step forward.
Yeah.
Because you just feel like, you know what I mean? Like they want to, you know, got to keep that pressure on them. Anyway, what was it? 3 bass gigs in 24 hours for you?
It was, from start to finish, I think it was 26 or 27 hours. But because it was one night, the next morning, and then
the next night.
The next night, but not too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
new record for me. I'm not sure when that record is going to get broken.
Yeah, who knows though.
We'll see if I get more church gigs, then there's a chance that could happen. But right now, I don't think I have another gig on bass until Cody's Christmas gigs. Mm-hmm. So not till December.
Which December's looking, relatively busy.
Yeah.
Cody's Christmas shows, and then Petty Nick's doing a couple things.
Yeah.
It fills up fast. But I think once it's really out there that you're taking bass gigs, I wouldn't be surprised if stuff might be booked out till the end of this year as far as subs and everything. Yeah. But I think once you're getting into the new year, I think just that...
I think it'll come.
Yeah, stuff will just,
In the meantime. I can get gear fixed.
That's true. We got to get your amp in and...
Get used to the 5-string again.
Yeah. Well, so let's go ahead and close this down.
Yeah, because I am tired.
Yeah, because you had a heck of a weekend.
That early morning, getting up at 5 to go to church.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm feeling right now.
Long drive.
It's a half an hour drive. Wasn't too bad.
I guess at that time of day, maybe it was only half an hour,
Yeah, coming back it took quite a bit longer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Traffic jam downtown Denver Sunday afternoon.
Oh, yeah. It's gotten, Yeah, I had the same thing going up to Brimfield Saturday at 1 o'clock.
Really?
Yeah, it was jammed up, Yeah, it's just how it is these days.
Excuse me, I'm yawning.
I know.
It's so time tired. To wrap,
Yeah, let's wrap it up. So, any takeaways, recommendations, any of those things? Doesn't sound like it.
I did some takeaways from gigs already that we covered.
Yeah, right.
Recommendations, did we eat anywhere that we liked?
Did we eat anywhere that we liked? What did we do after Jonathan's gig? We just came straight home. Yeah.
And the Chipotle by Nissi's failed us again.
Unfortunately, they did. It was so hot.
Yeah, I got the medium salsa, and it was definitely hot. It was so hot I couldn't eat much of my
It was blazing.
bowl.
Yeah. Dang
it. Chipotle by Nissi's, but we didn't have time to go to Tacos Ay Ay Ay.
Yeah, we never really do.
I know, because we rehearse and sound check until doors, and then...
I mean, right up until doors.
Sometimes after.
We went past doors this time, but yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the Chipotle was so hot. I mean, it was even bothering me. Like, I was, struggling. Although I did have a bite of your sofritas, which is their new meat-free protein thing. Pretty good.
It's kind of tofu-like.
Yeah, it was good. So we didn't have, no culinary adventures this week.
No, certainly not. And so no real recommendations. What are you drinking there? Is that
That's Fernet.
A Fernet.
Yeah, just for the old stomach.
That stuff is magic for the stomach. It's like,
it's the mintiest thing on earth, but it just it's so soothing.
Yeah.
But those kind of drinks were medicine in medieval times. They weren't,
Do you have any takeaways or recommendations?
Yeah, gosh. One takeaway is I need to just get a dedicated bag for everything that goes to every gig, because I've worked myself into having not a bunch even, but 5-ish smaller things.
The wireless and
the wireless and the backup and and then with the other normal stuff I take, it winds up being it's 6 or 8 things, and I just need to consolidate, because for the Cody gig, I got my wireless and backup rig and all this stuff. I got it to the door, but then I set it down right by the door, and it didn't make it to the car, and my clothes. So I had to wear a Bryan Stacks shirt last night. So luckily, Bryan had a spare shirt that I could borrow. I was literally going to try to drive to Kohl's and get a shirt. Because I was dressed, like this, which is not stage clothes.
No. That's a black hoodie.
Yeah, it's a black hoodie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's end
do it.
We've been trying to end it. Let's end it.
This one is, as always, brought to you by Performance High.
Voice and Music Studio.
And no one else.
Nobody else gets credit this time.
No one helped us at all.
Does anyone?
No one ever helps. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
See you next week.
Bye.